Chris Hayes gets it best. You know, all the things that the economic angst of those in rural America are things that are affected by the people they vote into office. Chopping down a mountain so that you can easier automate the extraction of coal, hospitals that are closing, jobs that are going overseas with the capitalist model of maximizing profits at all costs for the shareholders. So we ship your jobs overseas, right? Those are things that are distinct to Republican policies, but they elect them. Check out what Chris's guest had to say, Hayes' guest has to say, and we'll then take it on the other side.
Scientist Tom Schaller and journalist Paul Waldman in their new book, White Rural Rage, quote, "This minority rule is a consequence of the disproportionate power wielded by rural whites, power that is often justified on the right by the insistence that these are the worthiest Americans, the ones most possessed of virtue and values, and that therefore it is only proper that their votes count for more." Tom Schaller is a professor of political science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, co-author of White Rural Rage, along with other books, which is out this week, and he joins me now. Let's talk about this concept of resentment, because it really has, first, let's just talk about the trajectory, which you guys talk about in the book, and I think people know it at some level, but is underappreciated just how dramatic the move of rural America has been just over, let's say, the last 8 years. Counties that used to be 60-40 counties or 55-45 counties are now just reliably 80-20 Republican. So places that were already conservative moving just wildly, and it still shows signs of going. What explains that trend?
Well, as you point out, between 2012 and 2016, I think there were 206 Obama-Trump counties. There were 18 in my home state of New York and 6 that are wholly or partly in Elise Stefanik's district, the most rural, largest district in New York State. A lot of it's driven by culture war politics, I think. Paul and I are basically arguing that rural Americans, with cause, have concluded that neither party can really solve their material and economic benefits, right? Congress can't pass a law saying all you foreign countries can't manufacture things and hire child labor and have lax environmental laws to undergird our prices. You can't legislate the reversal of mountaintop mining, which pulls the tops off of coal mines, and so you can just take a giant shovel and you no longer have to dig a hole and send miners with their lunches, like in Matewan, the documentary by John Sayles, with their lunch boxes between their legs with a pickaxe and shovel. And so, those jobs are disappearing and you can't really just vote them back, right? But what's happening is, once you make that decision, once you say, they're talking a good game and whatever, we can't really solve these problems, you might as well vote on gods and gun and religion, like Barack Obama said. And there's a rationality to that, because the Republican Party will try to take away reproductive party. They will push back against trans rights and so forth. So there is a certain logic to rural white voters voting that the way they do. And I think some of it's just driven by exasperation economically as they look around and they see hospitals closing, pharmacies closing, they see mom and pop shops replaced by dollar stores and Family Dollar, which is, by the way, late-stage capitalism, not socialism, ladies and gentlemen, is destroying rural communities, even though they're complaining about socialism in big cities and Obama phones all the time. And I think the desperation is real.
Yeah, that point, I think, what I encounter in the book has really stuck with me, because I think it also explains the lack of a programmatic agenda of the Republican Party when they have power, right? The conclusion that, there is nothing the government can do, which I don't think is necessarily correct, but the conclusion that there's nothing that can be done about the trajectory of these places that we live in, that we love, that are on essentially a kind of downward trajectory in terms of their prospects. And if there's nothing to do, then I'm going to vote on this other stuff. I guess the question is, there's this theory of progressives that there are things to be done. And if you can target investment and you can target government policy for those areas, and much of it has been targeted explicitly by the Biden administration and a bunch of these laws, this theory of the case that you can make things better there, that you can reverse that. What do you think of that?
I've been talking to a lot of rural activists this week, like Matt Hildreth, who's the executive director of ruralorganizing.org. These people are doing the hardest, most Sisyphean work out in these small rural counties to try to get people mobilized, registered to vote, and voting, not the right way per se, but voting on the right things. And you're right. Democrats are actually delivering a lot more. When Obama came into office in 2009, the rural uninsured rate was 24% for adults, which is measured as over 18 under 65, because you have Medicare above and you're a minor or dependent, right? The 24% uninsured rate within 9 years of passing Obamacare, which passed in 2010, so we're talking 2019, the middle of the Trump administration, within 9 years was lowered from 24% to 16%. That's 8% net. That's 1 out of 12 rural Americans who were moved from uninsured to insured. And because it's 8 against 24%, that's a 1/3 reduction. Out of every 3 uninsured rural Americans, 1 of them was moved to insurance. That is a massive public policy success. And of course, rural voters rushed out to elect Obama's successor, Hillary Clinton, in 2016, right? Wrong, right? Wrong. No. That did not happen. Do you want me to talk about how Joe Biden has saved rural people from COVID deaths? I could do that one too if you want to hear.
So as you see, the reality is Democrats, I simply cannot understand why they do not remain on the offensive. Because their policies are the policies that even rural America wants, right? It will serve rural America best. So if you isolate all the guns, Bible, or what is it? The guns and, you know that thing that Obama called out. If you can isolate that and condense it into a financial message, not for them just financially, but make it existential for them, make it in such a manner that they want to get that honey, not that you're trying to push that honey onto them. They want it. They want it. And you know what? The things that Democrats stand for, I'm talking about true progressive Democrats now. I'm not talking about neoliberals, but we can pull a lot of Democrats out of places like Timbuktu, Wisconsin, Timbuktu, Texas, Timbuktu, Appalachia. But it means getting rid of those Democratic consultants on the coast, that haven't got a clue about what the average American citizen goes through. So what do? They dependent on have a base vote that doesn't matter what they do, they are going to vote for them. And a particular sect that doesn't really need anything or matters. Folks, if Democrats not following their consultants are lousy. If Democrats start really being into these places for the people, it's amazing what can be accomplished.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.